Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2019 career mode, episode number 71 today for the Canadian Grand Prix in Season 4. If you guys didn't miss the previous one at the Monaco Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. That was a interesting race, to say the least. A bit of a controversy potentially in the race, in two different senses. In qualifying, actually, doing a bit of a Nico Rosberg, and then in the race itself also got a little bit bargy out there at Monaco, but the sticks of it was, we came out there positive in the championship. We now lead it by one measly point, and Mercedes are on top in the constructors, which is pretty damn good. Going into this weekend, then we continue on though with our reliability crusade basically with the car. We've got two gearbox durability upgrades, obviously just trying to get the car as reliable as possible, because we had no upgrades on reliability at the very start of this season, because that got reset going into this one from the last season. And the car's at the point where the last two upgrades we've got, I believe, are brake upgrades, or maybe one weight redistribution upgrade on the chassis side of things, and that'll be our maxed out Mercedes car. So I don't feel any need and rush to, go into those upgrades. I'd rather get the car reliable, so we're not having to take as many grid penalties later on in this season, which will be quite important, I feel, because the grid spread is obviously so close. I mean, look at the R&D chart. I mean, now it's pretty ridiculous. McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, Renault, all so close together on that straight line plateau then, and Racing Point not too far ahead. Once we make our last two upgrades, we'll be right there, pretty close to Racing Point. So, it's only a matter of time. Maybe by 2/3 of the way of the season, you could see everyone from Racing Point, maybe down to even Haas, I would say, in a very, very close bunch where maybe they're covered by 2/10, which is pretty mad to think about. Like 6 cars, 6 teams covered by 2/10. That's pretty nutty, and that will make for definitely a very exciting end to this season, I feel, where it's going to be very fine margins. But it will be fine margins here at the Canadian GP, I'm sure, as well, with so many teams already quite close to each other. So let's get into this then. It was a mildly successful Monaco Grand Prix, but I think we can try and do better. And so let's go to qualifying and see how we do over one lap.
Hello and welcome from the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, home to the Canadian Grand Prix, for today's qualifying session. When it comes to getting lap time out of this circuit, it's traditionally been about maximising top speed. Do you simply remove as much downforce as possible, hang on in the corners and max out down the straights?
Top speed is a key factor for this circuit. Even if you can achieve the same lap time as someone running less wing than you, chances are you'll find overtaking difficult if you have too much drag.
Alright, so heading into Q1 then, overcast skies at the moment, but the sun will be coming out as we go through into Q2 and Q3. I don't think there's any rain forecast for the entire weekend here, so it should be pretty straightforward in that kind of sense. And so we're on the soft compound tire right now, not kind of, going to mess around with the medium compound like we did at the Monaco GP. I don't think I'm going to need 2 sets to get through into Q3. I think the car's looking quick. It is feeling quick in Q1. Clearly there you can see P1 there by a decent margin to Devin Butler. The Red Bull surprisingly looking quite good actually around there, but Hamilton also right up there with me in that top 5, so that bodes well for both of us in the top 10 shootout. But here we go in Q2. Like I said, unlike Monaco, didn't think I was going to need 2 sets of soft tyres for the Q2 run. Don't need it. Across the line, fastest of all, ahead of Gasly and Butler there. And once again, the 2 Red Bulls looking very good. And to my surprise, the Renault, at least of Weber, down in P9 there. So, obviously the man who's been trouncing Verstappen so far in the kind of inter-team battle in Renault, he's down there in P9. So that was a little bit shocking, but the grid is very, very close as well. So, a fine margin, one small mistake, and you could drop from P1 to like P7, I think it is. We're going to have to see how it goes in these runs now in Q3. This is the first flying lap, of course, in the top 10 shootout there. Pretty okay first sector. Felt like I could have carried a bit more speed into turn 1, maybe, but as we go through the final few corners, dancing the car through the final chicane across the line, and it's P3 there. But Hamilton at the moment is on provisional pole position into turn 1. We go for a second flyer. Thought I carried more speed into turn 1, but in actual fact, we didn't really gain that much time. Only literally a measly 1,000th of a second, really. By the time we get to the hairpin, we've not really gained any time. We're kind of just thereabouts, maybe 1/10 lower, maybe 1/10 gain. You can see there very fine margins, really. So it might be on the last chicane, maybe, to try and chuck it in. But Hamilton goes even quicker then. So Hamilton is absolutely on fire right now. My teammate, for the first time this season, is really feeling electric out there as he books in provisional pole for the second time in his lap here for the top 10 shootout. We've got across the chicane. We've lost a lot of time, and it's not going to be any improvement for us. And in the end of it, I am shocked to find out I qualify in P9 for the Canadian Grand Prix. I was absolutely shocked until I looked at the timesheet and thought, Oh my god, I'm not even shocked about my own performance now. I'm shocked about how close this grid is. Look at that, 2.3 tenths covers P1 to P9. That is actually mad. That's like literally 2 mistakes. One mistake maybe in sector 1 or 2, a mistake at the hairpin that I made potentially in sector 3, or the chicane, maybe could have taken way more speed into that, but I was kind of afraid of hitting the wall of champions on that second run for some reason, and so that's mad. That's really mad. So Lewis Hamilton is on pole position then. My teammate has done an amazing job to get that pole, and we're 8 places off. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I can say, oh, we're only 2.3 tenths off, which doesn't sound too bad, but the sticks of it is we're down 8 positions, so it's pretty horrendous actually when you think about it. So we've got a big fight back to come on our hands come Sunday. It looks like the Red Bull and the Racing Point cars look very strong, and again, like I said, surprised to see Weber down there, but maybe it's just the Renault car is not that quick around here for some reason, because you can see both Verstappen and Weber are here with me in P7 and 8, so we might be meeting Lucas Weber once again on track, which might get quite tetchy following that Monaco Grand Prix, but looking forward to it nonetheless. So let's go to the grids and see how we do.
Canada has a true love affair with Formula One. The grandstands here are always packed to capacity. It's a country that has given us the likes of Gilles and Jacques Villeneuve, the thrilling Grand Prix of 79, of 98 and of course 2011. They love their motorsport in Montreal, and we absolutely love coming here. If you want flat-out racing, you've come to the right place this weekend, as it's full throttle for 59% of this 2.7-mile circuit, peaking at around 210 miles per hour going into the final chicane. But that speed requires discipline, and there are more than a few close walls here just waiting to punish drivers with a heavy right foot. And it's an absolute pleasure to be joined once again by Anthony Davidson. Let's talk about the engineer. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
They've been avoiding mistakes and have had solid pace, so it's been a good season so far, but whether they can keep that up long term remains to be seen.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Pierre Gasly lines up on pole position with Lance Stroll alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Hülkenberg, Perez, Devon Butler and Verstappen, Weber, the engineer, Leclerc and Lando Norris. Hamilton, they've taken a grid penalty. Raikkonen, Sebastian Vettel and Giovinazzi. Russell, Grosjean, Daniel Ricciardo and Kevin Magnussen. Bottas and Daniel Kvyat completes the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
So here we are then on the grid for the Canadian Grand Prix in P8, not P9, so we move up 1 place, and that's due to our teammate, unfortunately getting a grid penalty. So he got pole position in qualifying, but has to take a 10-place grid penalty today. I'm assuming for an engine component change of some sort, so we line up in P8, and Hamilton is now 2 rows back from me in P11 then. So big shame for him, of course, mega work to get that pole position, but of course this is what I talked about, literally at the start of the episode where I mentioned reliability. This is what I don't want that to happen to us later on this season with gearboxes, with other components of the engine, which is why I'm going to take a pause on the last 2 performance parts and really make sure we don't have to take those penalties at the end of the season. But anyway, for our race then, let's not worry about Hamilton too much. Let's worry about ourselves. We're in P8 then. It's going to be a 2-stop for us today with a set of soft tyres and 2 sets of mediums there. Now, I don't know if I'm remembering this incorrectly from last season, but I feel like we could have maybe ran almost 2 sets of softs, I think, with the tyre wear levels, but I know the Mercedes car in general is running a little bit harder on its tyres. I always notice with the AI when we're in other teams in seasons 1 to 3, the Mercedes teams always used to run harder compounded tyres sometimes in races, so we'll have to see about that. But that first stint might be quite short, and I'll have to kind of see about that. The undercut might be quite powerful, so let's watch out for that. But we're P8, we're ahead of our teammate now on the grid, so we've got to lead the charge from Mercedes, as it were, into this Grand Prix and try and make up for, well, not even make up, just, we're only 2.3 tenths off. We're just going to go out there and really give it some, because it seems like the entire grid's so close. So here we go then to 5 red lights from P8 on the grid here. 35 laps ahead of us at Montreal. 5 red lights are out and we're underway. It's a great start there for Lucas Weber. It's a poor one for Devon Butler. It's an okay one for me, I guess. Leclerc, though, with a massive dive the inside for turn 1, and he's trying to go around the outside then of Weber. We've been knocked down to P9 then, so initially okay, but then just kind of got swamped a little bit by Leclerc on the inside, and also Lando Norris is trying his cheeky hand to go down the inside of me into that first chicane. We just get it done and keep the position into P9, but Leclerc with a great bit of racing there on the inside, really getting his elbows out, trying to squeeze out Weber, but Weber comes back at him then and squeezes out the Toro Rosso, and so we chase after our former teammates and also our former F2 teammate from back in the day. Many formers here in this career mode as Leclerc, as Norris tries to go around the outside again and have a look there. So that McLaren looking pretty punchy in a straight line here. And I can't lie, for us, I'm lacking a bit of oomph, I guess, in this first lap here. I thought we were going to be right on the back of Leclerc, as we kind of are right now on the hairpin, but I was surprised that Norris was able to have a second bite of the cherry there as we entered that back straight, as we went to the end of that back straight. So now we move on to the long back straight towards the chicane, then overtake mode on the ERS. Rich mix going, of course, no DRS yet for 2 laps here. Leclerc has a bit of a defensive look to the inside. He locks up badly, so we're going to have a very good run now at Leclerc. Where's he going to go? Where are we going to go? On the left-hand side, I think we're going to have to try and force our way through. Leclerc leaves us the space. We're going to go for the big dive down the inside into turn 1. Use the kind of braking force we know the Mercedes car has, and we get up into P8 here. But it's been a pretty slow and mediocre start, if all things considered, really, here at the Canadian GP. Hamilton's still down there outside the top 10, and at the moment I can already kind of sense a train maybe forming, because we lost a bit of time to Weber there. We closed that up with the fast lap of the Grand Prix onto lap number 3, but what you're about to see is pretty much classic F1 2019 here, especially with the kind of faster cars and a track like this. It's going to be so difficult to make any overtakes for either me or the AI, because we're all in this train here. You can see here, I believe it's a 1-2 for Racing Point, so they're showing off their massive pace advantage there, and you can see one of them is streaking away. He's broken about a 2-second gap there in first place there, but from P2 down to me P8, it is one big train here, and we're getting away from Norris, so literally it's just P2 to P8 there. It's all bunched up together, but we're all getting DRS off one another, and no one's really making any sort of inroads on anyone. We can see here we're getting close to Lucas Weber as we move on to lap number 6, but I just don't have enough confidence and speed there to dive on down the inside there. We're a little bit closer, like literally almost half a car closer. Probably could be thinking about making a dive there, but we're just not near enough, and he's getting good enough speed with his DRS open off Devon Butler. Of course, you know, at this point of the career mode, all these cars will have the DRS upgrades on the aero tree. They'll have the drag reduction upgrades. They'll have the chassis weight reduction upgrades. So everyone's just so equalised here, obviously, as it was clearly shown on the R&D chart itself. And so again, lap number 7, familiar sight. I'm staring at the back of this Renault rear wing here of Weber. It almost feels like Monaco in a way. I can't, make an inroad. I can't make a pass somewhere. There may as well be barriers up everywhere, because it just is the same thing every single lap, and it has been since lap number 2, which is quite frustrating. You can see the entire time that Racing Point is just maintaining that big gap there. So I can't tell who it is. I don't know if it's Lance Stroll or Nico Hülkenberg. Either way, one of those Racing Point cars is going to have a very decent time at dominating this Grand Prix, I think, at the moment, because they're just getting away and no one else is really challenging them. So at the moment, it's still the same running order. Literally, the 2 Racing Point cars, I believe, then Gasly in the Red Bull. Then you've got Sergio Perez in the McLaren, I believe. Then Devon Butler, Weber, and then myself. I believe that is the pecking order. And then obviously behind me, we've got Lando Norris, and I think that's Hamilton then in P10. So he's just about in the top 10, but that's a really weird thing to look at there. Of course, Hamilton down in P10, struggling to even overtake Norris here, but he got pole position. It's very weird, and I feel like this car has kind of maybe lost some pace then from quali to the race, potentially. That maybe shows. And so now we're on lap number 8 then. I've kind of had enough at this point of this train, so I'm going to be coming in on this lap then for a pit stop here. So we're going to be very aggressive and cut to the inside of Lucas Weber there. I so hoped, I wished I kind of recorded on board from Weber there, because that would have been quite scary, I think, as he was literally about to turn into the apex as I cut across him there. But needs must, I couldn't have slowed myself down. I need to go as quickly as I can into this pit lane there, so that's going to potentially get us a bit of an advantage being that quick into the pit entry there, getting it slowed down. And out on the exit, obviously, we're going to come out in hopefully a bit of decent clean air. We're on the medium tyres now, and that'll be the tyre we go on to the end of the Grand Prix on another stop, of course, but we come out just ahead of Kevin Magnussen. Their little lock up there, but on the exit, I actually get a massive whack from Magnussen, which I was very shocked at. I literally felt a massive judder on my actual wheel on the force feedback. I didn't think that the impact was going to be that large there, so I think he must have clattered me with a front left tyre of his on the rear right there. But we're in decent clean air, actually. Raikkonen's quite far away, and so it'll mean we can push on, and hopefully the hope is all the cars ahead of me, they're going to be still in that train, even for one more lap, and hopefully that's enough for me to gain enough time, because there was only about maybe a second spreading those 6 positions. So I have a lot of hope this undercut could be quite massive for us. And literally, so I mentioned that point, we're going to cut a little bit further ahead on that lap onto lap number 10, then across the line we go. Look at the top left there, Weber's name pops up there as well, so we've jumped the Renault at least, maybe some other cars as well, into turn 1 and 2. There we go, up into P8 then. So I've got back into the position I was in pre-pit stop, but I know for a fact there's going to be way more cars still yet to come in, a la Kimi Raikkonen here, and I think one of the Haas cars of Grosjean, I believe it is. Let's see. So here we go now, the move on Raikkonen there on the left-hand side will go, hopefully get the move in and not be boxed in by Grosjean too much. We have to give Raikkonen a bit of room, but we get the job done, just about make that left-hander there, as there was a lot of understeer kicking in, and so we avoid the wall of champions. But there we go, we've overtaken Verstappen, Gasly I saw as well. We're up into P3 now, and Grosjean's the only car left to overtake on track here that's yet to make a pit stop. I believe P1 is one of the Racing Point cars that's dominating this Grand Prix. So this has been the worldliest undercut I've ever done in an F1 game. I think we've gained 6 positions in 2 laps effectively. You know, I've done like 2 out laps, maybe 3 if you count this one I'm on right now, but 2 out laps that other cars were coming into the pit lane for, and in those 2 laps of, like I said, they're all in this train, all losing dirt, you know, losing time with dirty air, slipstream effect and whatnot. That was enough, and obviously the domino effect was so close together, that entire train was so close together of like one or 2 seconds. I've gained that on the outlap on the mediums, and there you go. We've actually done miracle work here and gone from P8 to P2 in just 1 pit stop. But now, as you can see, as we move on to lap number 13, then Hulkenberg is coming at me at a rate of knots. He's on the soft compounder tyre there. He's the only man on the softs there, and he gets a mega exit off that left-hander and literally just does me on the inside there. I don't even try and really fight him too much in the brake zone, because he was always going to overtake me on the softer compounder tyre, let alone the fact that Racing Point car is looking godlike here around the Canadian GP. So it's a 1-2 for Racing Point once again there. I'm down to P3, and from here on out we just try and do the best job we can. But on lap 16, 3 laps later then, Lucas Weber is trying his chance around the outside there. So once again, me and Weber meet on track. We're P7 and P8 previously, now we're P3 and P4 there, so we both kind of leapfrogged the people who are racing, the 2 Red Bulls, a la Gasly and Butler and Sergio Perez here. But he's got me. That Renault looks pretty damn good in a straight line as well. I don't know what it is. This Mercedes car's lost a bit of speed in a straight line and just in general in this race to what I thought we had in quali. Clearly what Hamilton showed, because right now we're only just maybe going to be able to make a move on Weber. Can we have a dive down the inside? And we try it, but Weber just cuts across us there. So that was the kind of dive where, you know, if I just went a bit too committed there, that would have been a crash there between me and Lucas. So kind of glad we kind of didn't fully commit to that. But now we can try and make the move now to the inside of the chicane. Doesn't quite work out. Again, he chops me off there. So Weber's getting very good with the defensive driving here. But as we move on to lap 18, we're going to have the run down the inside. It's 3 wide, because I think the McLaren has also gone down the inside. Yes, he has. He's trying to go around the outside of Weber, and he's actually going to make it work into turn 2. So Perez gets Weber there. He comes back at him though. Lap 18, Weber back at me here for P3. He set the fast lap of the Grand Prix as well, so he's showing some great pace. We're side by side through the entire last chicane there, side by side to the wall. We're going to squeeze him on the left. Where is Sergio Perez going to go? Looks like he'll come and knocking on the right hand side. We can't squeeze him anymore there. We have to leave him the room. I almost shut the door on Perez, and that could have been another incident there for us. So we have to remain in P4 unfortunately and settle down for that, and have to try and come back at Weber on the next lap potentially. As we move on to the end of lap number 19, then on to lap number 20. He goes defensive, compromises his line through the chicane a little bit quicker, get a good exit, DRS open on the left hand side. Weber squeezes us very much to the wall and to the grass there on the left. We get it all crossed up into turn 1, and we make a mistake. Oh, wait, that should have been us booked in for P3, but we made a mistake. Went a bit too deep there, a bit too hot into that corner, and we're back down to P4 there. But that's what happens when you're fighting so hard, and these guys are definitely quicker than me. I'm just trying to keep them at bay, but they're quicker than me. And this is the proof now. Lap 21, Weber's waltzed away from me now in some clean air, and now I'm defending very much hard against Sergio Perez, just trying to cling on to what is now a P3 position, because Hulkenberg's made a pit stop for his second stop, because he was, of course, on soft tyres here. But we are just about hanging on. This car does not have the pace for some reason for the top 4 or 5, even though he got pole position. So this is very baffling. I think part of it's due to the tyre wear, of course, as well. Lap 21, we're maybe about a lap or 2 away from coming in for the pit stops. I've told my engineer I'm going to come in lap 23. I believe Hamilton is going to come in lap 22, but I don't think the tyre wear should be affecting things this much. But maybe it really is, because every single acceleration zone in sector 2 especially, I'm losing a lot of time for these cars now as Verstappen closes up then towards the hairpin in that same same area where Hulkenberg got a great exit to overtake me earlier on in the Grand Prix, and so we just skate through into the apex as the rear end steps out here, so maybe the tyres are feeling quite second-hand. This kind of reminds me of, I think it was it Season 2 or Season 1 in the Alfa Romeo, where the car felt kind of broken almost, and it feels like that in a way where I just can't explain the lack of pace. But here comes Verstappen now, around the outside, we go defensive into the chicane there, and we're going to narrowly just keep this car through and not hit the front right wing on the Wall of Champions there. Hamilton does come in, but Verstappen attacks me on the outside of the right-hand side. Perez is right there as well to box me in there. We're just going to hang on for P1 as it is right now, because everyone's coming for their second stop, so we are calling this quite late here. As we go on to lap 23, we get swarmed by the Racing Point, the McLaren and the Renault, and we come in on that lap then. Stroll continues on, Perez is in as well, it would seem, as well as I think Verstappen as well. I think all two of them are in as well, so all three of us have come in. So it's a good pit stop for us, 2 seconds, and we're going to remain ahead of these guys on another set of medium tyres, but I'm going to hope these tyres hold on a little bit better than they did on that first stint and that second stint of the entire Grand Prix overall. But we're going to be out here in P8, it would seem like, I think, because we're going to come out. There's a bit of a train ahead of us, and Gasly, who I think has already made his pit stop, of course, has now jumped us. So we jumped Gasly early on with the first pit stop. I guess it's come back full circle now, because he's re-jumped us with this second pit stop. Of course, now we've got fresh tyres, and crucially up ahead of us, I think we've got 2 Alfa Romeos going a little bit slowly on a conscious strategy here, out of sync of the GP, holding up Gasly very much into the chicane. It's a beautiful exit there as we go try to overtake Pierre Gasly up into P7. Verstappen comes through though on the left, to be 3 wide, and the Dutchman dives it down the inside of 3 cars here, tries to get Kvyat. He gets held up by the Russian. We go around the outside of the Dutchman, then trying to re-overtake him for P7. He hits us a little bit onto the curbing there, slows us down. Gasly's going to come across, and Gasly has hit us into the wall, front wing off completely. As we hit the barrier at the front, the car was carried forward. I tried to slow the car down desperately, but it just started to double lock up the 2 front tyres, and that just slid my car even faster towards the wall there, with all the lack of kind of stopping of the momentum. And so front wing off, we're now in last place. Leclerc is also out of the Grand Prix for some other reason there, but we're in last place now. Front wing off, gonna have to make an extra pit stop, 10 laps to go. There's no point, that's our race over, so we're just gonna park it up here alongside Leclerc, and in some quite fitting fashion, in the way my race personally in the actual career mode didn't go to plan, the recording didn't go to plan, as my recording failed halfway through the podium sequence. So what you're about to watch now is a entirely different podium sequence of an entirely different Grand Prix, where I still DNF'd, of course, because I wanted to obviously be fair to the point that I DNF'd in the original recording, so I just basically retired from the Grand Prix. So the actual results are this: Devin Butler got the win in the end, which is a bit of a shame for Racing Point, of course, because they were on for a 1-2, I feel. But Butler gets the win then. Verstappen up into second there. Perez third. Weber, though, surprisingly, in this second rerun race, only got P10, which is very surprising. And Hamilton got up into P5. So in some ways, I got a little bit kind of cheated out some points in terms of, Hamilton was nowhere near P5. So I've been outdone by my teammate by a decent amount of points there. But also at the same time, Weber only got 1 point here in this Grand Prix. So in the end, after that kind of redoing of the GP, the championship looks like this then. Hulkenberg is in the lead. Myself and Weber now are on level points here. In the constructors, we've lost a decent amount of points to Renault there, but we still remain in some sort of kind of okay position, as Hamilton obviously scored a decent P5 there. But yeah, guys, really couldn't do much. The recording just failed halfway through the podium, but obviously since I DNF'd out of the original recording, I thought it'd be best just to actually just DNF obviously out of the second rerun. Fits well that I have no points in either one that was done. The only thing that did change was the podium, which is unfortunate, like I said, because the Racing Point cars probably deserved that 1-2 because they were mega, but in the rerun for some reason Devin Butler was the one that got the win. But hey ho, it's happened before, of course. It happened last season, unfortunately twice to me last season. Let's hope it's not a case where it's going to happen again. There was a new patch for F1 2019, and this is when the crash happened, so I'm hoping the new patch hasn't made the game unstable once again like it used to be in the middle of Season 3's career mode that we did with the Toro Rosso team. But anyway, guys, that's been that episode then. A whirlwind of a race for me, and either way, whatever career mode, whatever race save I went on from, it was no points for us, and our rivals gained some on us. But it just, either way, a very baffling feeling about the car itself having no pace there. Like, I just had no answer for it. It had no pace in a straight line. Even in the corners, didn't feel too quick compared to the Racing Point especially, and even the Renault and McLaren. So hopefully just a blip, and next episode at France, the car feels quick again, like it did at the Spanish Grand Prix and Monaco, but we'll have to see about that one. But guys, if you did enjoy that episode, nonetheless, then be sure to hit that like button. Let me know your thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, look for weekly full-on content. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoyed today. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.